Watching Your Thoughts, September 10th, 1979. You mustn't think the practice for the total removal of the kilesas from your citta to be too hard for you, because that would be contrary to the Lord Buddha's Dhamma teaching that teaches you to exert yourself, endure, and persevere. This kind of thinking is the work of the kilesas, which have been opposing the Dhamma teachings from time immemorial. When you start to exert yourself in your practice, they will oppose the Dhamma and make you weak and discouraged. They will come up with various tricks to make your citta weak and irresolute in order to keep you under their control. You, as a Dhamma practitioner, must be constantly mindful of your thoughts to see if they are opposing or following the Dhamma teaching. This is the crucial aspect of your practice. You have to always be rational and always watch your thoughts or sankhara. There are two kinds of sankhara. The sankhara that opposes the Dhamma teaching will destroy you, the truth, and the Dhamma. They are samudaya, the origin of suffering. The sankhara that follows the Dhamma teaching will destroy the kilesas. They are magga, the path of practice leading to the disbanding of pain and suffering. You have to always watch your thoughts that your citta constantly generates. It is similar to a football that is being kicked back and forth. How can your citta remain still? It's constantly being surrounded by the kilesas, which are like football players that keep kicking your citta to constantly think. It is therefore necessary to apply the Dhamma teaching with your strenuous exertion, endurance, and perseverance to correct the harm done by the kilesas. If you can't persevere and endure, then you're not totally committed to your task. If you don't strive, then you're not following the Lord Buddha, your teacher. To be a good human being, you have to strive with your diligent effort to faithfully follow the Dhamma teaching, because this is the right kind of endeavor. If you have to endure pain to achieve it, you must willingly put up with it. You're born in a world that is full of pain, and you're in the midst of it. It's not possible to separate yourself from this pain, especially the emotional or mental pain, which is a lot more painful than the physical pain. Your mental pleasure and pain are more profound than your physical pleasure and pain. In fact, the body never generates any pleasure. It only generates pain when it becomes ill. When it's not sick, it doesn't produce any pleasure. It only generates pain when it becomes sick, and the pain can be extremely excruciating. If you haven't practiced any mental development before, you'll be consumed by this pain. There'll be two kinds of pain happening at the same time, the physical and the mental pain. Mental pleasure and pain are very obvious and profound. When you experience emotional pleasure, it will make you joyful and happy, whether it's mundane or spiritual. I can't really say that the body generates any pleasure. To me, it only generates pain. When the body is normal and healthy, it doesn't produce any pleasure at all. But when the bodily pain appears, it really shows itself. The intensity of pain corresponds to the intensity of the illness. The citta then loses its mindfulness and clings to the body due to its own delusion. This is like trying to lift a mountain and roll it over. How can this be possible? The true nature of the body, which is anicca, dukkha, and anatta, is all over the body. It's a lot bigger than a mountain. How can you defy it? You should instead investigate to see the body's true nature. The citta will then be able to free itself from its attachment to the body and free itself from physical and mental pain. As a practitioner, you have to constantly investigate and analyze and always watch over your citta, which will become your most valuable possession after it has been trained and developed. If it hasn't yet exhibited any worthwhile or exceptional capability, it's because it's being covered with the defilements of greed, hatred, and delusion. For this reason, it's necessary to practice mental development with your utmost ability and energy to cleanse them away. The citta is the one that takes up birth, aging, illness, and death, the one that ceaselessly wanders in the samsara varta, and the one that experiences pleasure and pain. It's this citta that will excel after it has been purified to become the absolute truth and be completely free from all worries. The past will converge into the present. The future will also be clearly seen in the present. This purified citta will be complete, perfect, contented, most sublime, and have no craving for the past or the future. Therefore the citta should be relentlessly and diligently trained, developed, cleansed, and purified until it becomes a pure citta. Sati or mindfulness is absolutely vital. I have said this many times before. In all of the Dhamma talks that I have given, I have always emphasized sati, because it's indispensable for your practice. Whatever you do, if you have no sati, you will fail, especially in your practice. Sati is absolutely necessary. You have to be vigilant, careful, and cautious, constantly maintaining your sati until it becomes sampajanya, or alertness. Sati means mindfulness. When you continually establish mindfulness, it becomes sampajanya. This is the second level of sati. The third level is the automatic or always-on sati. When you get to this level, you don't have to establish it because it's ever present. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, you will never be absent-minded and leave your citta exposed for the kilesas to attack it. That's why it's called automatic sati, or during the time of the Lord Buddha, Maha sati. Maha sati and Maha Banya are inseparable. You'll see this in your practice. As soon as sati appears, Banya will follow immediately behind. Both of them will be tracking the sankhara that thinks and conceptualizes, not to mention the visual objects, sounds, aromas, flavors, and tactile sensations that come into contact with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, which are coarser phenomena. The citta's thinking won't be able to slip away from this automatic sati that will become aware as soon as the citta starts to think. Automatic Banya will follow right behind, curbing and restraining it right away, except when the citta is investigating for insight and detachment. Banya will let the citta continue investigating. At this stage, whatever appears in the citta will immediately disappear. As soon as a thought appears, it will immediately disappear. Just like the visual objects, sounds, aromas, flavors, and tactile sensations that come into contact with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. You can't eliminate them. All you have to do is to know their true nature and be detached from them. It's the same with the 5 khandhas. Eventually, sati and banya will learn the true nature of sankhara, which is very subtle, and sanya, which is even more subtle. They're extremely subtle because they are mental phenomena, or nama dhamma. As soon as they arise, sati and banya will know right away as a result of continual developing of sati and investigating with banya, which will gradually become more skillful without any doubt. This is the path traversed by the Lord Buddha and his noble disciples in freeing themselves from dukkha. This was the way they practiced. They never became discouraged or relented in their exertion. Therefore, you who are a follower of the Lord Buddha practicing mental development, and who have taken up the robe and are striving for freedom from dukkha, must faithfully follow this path. You must not be discouraged or relent. You must face up to any kind of dukkha as you strive to gradually eliminate the kilesas from your citta. We are all subject to dukkha, because this is the world of dukkha, the world of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Wherever you are, you can never escape from experiencing the anicca, dukkha, and anatta of the body or the citta. You are not shielded from the anicca, dukkha, and anatta, so how can you not experience dukkha? Even when you're not exerting effort in your practice, you'll still have to undergo dukkha. So it's better to experience dukkha while you're exerting effort than to suffer while you're doing nothing, which doesn't do you any good. As a practitioner of mental development, you must really exert and commit yourself to the practice. The magga, phala, and nibbana are in your citta. You mustn't think that they are somewhere else. The dukkha in your citta is much more excruciating than the dukkha in your body. What is samudaya? It is craving for sensuality, craving for becoming, and craving for non-becoming. Where does it appear? It appears in the citta. Its source is in the citta. It uses the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind as its tools. It is therefore necessary to investigate the physical and mental phenomena that the citta is attached to. Find out why the citta is obsessed with them. If you're attached to the body, then you must analyze the body until you see clearly its true nature, lose your obsession for it, and detach from it. What are the bodies of men and women really like? You have to look at the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, and the other internal organs, starting from the outside and then going inside. You have to look at the truth. You must constantly and relentlessly investigate with your sati and banya these 32 body parts until their true nature is seen. You must not blindly investigate, because this is not the way the Lord Buddha and the sages investigated. After you have seen the body's true nature, your delusion and attachment to the body will be eliminated. What's the use of clinging to them with your delusion? This is the way to investigate. I'm demonstrating this method of investigating the body as an example. You have to adapt it to suit your preference. You can either investigate your body or someone else's body. This will not be wrong, because it's magga, the path to the cessation of dukkha. When you're attached to someone else's body, you will love or hate it. This is samudaya, the origin of dukkha. The most important part of your practice is the application of your diligent effort. You must not speculate about magga, phala, and nibbana, or about the time and place that you will become enlightened. When the kilesas spring into action, they pay no attention to the time and place. They are in your citta, where you have to focus your attention. The kilesas are like fire that must be extinguished whenever they appear. Don't be concerned with the time and place. Suffering and the origin of suffering are in your citta. Suffering is a mental condition, while the pain in your body is a physical condition. Samudaya, the origin of suffering, is a mental condition. It is kama tanha, craving for sensuality, bhava tanha, craving for becoming, and vibhava tanha, craving for not becoming. Having been born, you don't want to die. How is this possible? This is vibhava tanha, craving for not becoming. These 3 kinds of cravings are in your citta. Nirodha, the cessation of suffering, is the product of magga. This cessation of dukkha is a gradual one, corresponding to the strength of the magga, the eightfold path consisting of sati, banya, and the other path factors that will gradually eliminate the kilesas. Nirodha, the cessation of suffering that is created by the kilesas, will gradually appear. When the magga becomes stronger, more kilesas will be eliminated. You'll see the kilesas being eradicated from the citta as you do sitting or walking meditation. Sati Banya will constantly and relentlessly keep on eliminating the kilesas, except when you take a rest or when you go into samadhi. This is the only time when Sati Banya of this level will not be working. But as soon as you stop resting, Sati Banya will keep on working, constantly attacking the kilesas, tanha, and asava, until they are entirely removed from the citta. Therefore, you should diligently keep on developing satipanya to gradually eliminate the kilesas from your citta until you get to the point where you'll have to search for them. These are the very subtle kilesas. When satipanya becomes very powerful, the kilesas will cower and go into hiding. But wherever they hide, they will be discovered by satipanya that is constantly searching for them. Eventually they will all be destroyed. The kilesas are very overwhelming in the beginning stages of practice. Look at all the visual objects and sounds, for example. They are all over the world. You're attached to them because you're affected by them. You're affected by the good and the bad sounds, the sounds of praise and criticism. You're also attached to the aromas, flavors, and tactile sensations. For this reason, the kilesas are said to be all over the universe. But when you investigate, You'll see that it's the flow of your thoughts that is attached to these sense objects by your mistaken or unfounded opinions or ideas. After you've investigated and seen their true nature, the flow of your thoughts will withdraw into the citta. The scope of your investigation that encompasses the entire world will become narrower. It was the kilesas that expanded the scope of your investigation. You have to round up the kilesas into the 5 khandhas by letting go of all the sense objects with your satipanya. After you've done this, you won't have to investigate the visual objects, sounds, aromas, flavors, and tactile sensations anymore, because you've seen their true nature and let go of your attachment. Why do any more investigation when you already know what they really are and are no longer attached to them or have any mistaken opinion about them? The one who has attachment and unfounded ideas about them is the citta, which has now disengaged from them and let go of them. So what is the use of investigating them any more? The investigation will now turn to the body, which is one of the 5 khandhas. You have to investigate to see its true nature. You can investigate any part of the body that you like until you see the 3 characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. You can investigate any one of these 3 characteristics because it will be like investigating all 3 of them, since they are all interrelated. When you have seen with Banya, as taught by the Lord Buddha, the true nature of any individual part of the body, you will have seen the rest of the body. Then, how can you be attached to this body? What is the use of being attached to the bones, skin, and flesh? Is it really an animal or a human being? Is it really I or mine? The flesh is just flesh, the bones are just bones, the sinews are just sinews, the skin is just skin. This body will eventually become bloated and decomposed. So how can this rotting and bloating body be you? How can it be I or mine? It will eventually disintegrate into the 4 elements of earth, water, air, and fire. How can it be I? If it's made up of the earth, water, air, and fire elements, why do you take it as yourself? You have to investigate until you see it very clearly with your citta. You have to investigate until you see it very clearly with your citta. The Lord Buddha called this kind of seeing true Banya. It's the same way with pain. To investigate dukkha, vedana, or pain, you have to be fearless and daring. Wherever it arises, that's where you have to continuously and mindfully probe. If you have to die, let it happen. This world is a cemetery, a world of birth and death. If you should die while sitting in meditation, let it happen. There is no need to have the other monks chant the kusala dhamma or wisdom for you, because you are right now developing the kusala dhamma yourself. So, why bother the other monks to do it for you when you can do it yourself? You must investigate the nature of pain. Don't be afraid. No matter how severe the pain might be, you must not wish it to go away. You must really investigate to see the truth. You have to clearly see the face of pain. See it as it really is. You have to see pain as just pain because it's nothing more than that. You will then see the citta that is being entangled with this pain. You must now investigate until you see that citta is just the citta, pain is just pain, and the body is just the body. They are just as they are, separated from one another. When there are no mistaken or unfounded opinions or ideas about the body, the pain, and the citta, you will see their true nature. When you see them just as they are, then the citta won't be troubled or shaken. No matter how severe the pain might be, you won't have any qualms because you've already understood it with Banya. You'll see more clearly the nature of feeling as Banya moves deeper into the citta. Notice, for instance, sukha vedana, or bliss. When the citta becomes very subtle, there will mostly be bliss, which will stand out very distinctly. You must see the true nature of this bliss. You mustn't think that pain is the only form of suffering, because if you are attached to bliss, this is samudaya, the cause of suffering. You have to analyze until seeing this clearly. You probably have never heard before that attachment to bliss is a cause of suffering. The kilesas that create this suffering are called samudaya. When the citta becomes attached to this mental bliss, this is samudaya. You have to investigate with your inexhaustible Banya to see this clearly. Banya knows this subtle kind of bliss, and also knows this subtle kind of dissatisfaction. The investigation of the four mental phenomena, or nama kantas, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana, can be done with any one of the four phenomena because they all have a similar nature. It isn't necessary to investigate all four, but the phenomenon that you're investigating must be live, happening now. When you're investigating Vedana, you will also be investigating Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. After you've repeatedly investigated, you'll be able to detach from them, just like you've detached from the body. You have to investigate all three feelings, good, bad, and neutral, until you stop clinging to them. You will then also stop clinging to Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana, which perpetually rise and cease. How can you consider them to be a self, a human being, or an animal? They're just phenomena that rise and cease in the citta. This is seeing with Banya. You have to keep on investigating until the kilesas run out of places to hide. When they are hiding places, which are the visual objects, sounds, aromas, flavors, and tactile sensations, have all been destroyed, they will then hide behind the five kantas. So you have to search for them in the five kantas and destroy them with the tapa tamma, the fire of tamma, beginning with the body. When you have investigated until seeing the body's true nature, you will realize that its nature is like the sense objects, and see that it is made up of the four elements. How then can you become attached to it when it's just a phenomenon? When you see this with Banya, you will immediately let go of it. Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana are just phenomena that continuously appear and disappear. That's the way they are, and they don't know what they are. It's you who incorrectly define them and become attached to them. When Banya has investigated until their true nature is clearly seen, you will let go of them. You will let go of Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. What you haven't let go of yet is the citta. The kilesas now only have the citta under their control. They can't go outside because all the exits have been blocked. They can no longer exit through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body because they have been blocked by Banya. They can no longer exit through the Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana by assuming them to be I or mine, because they have also been blocked by Banya. The Banya of this level is the automatic Banya. When the kilesas have no other place to go, they go back to their nest where they rule the Vartajaka, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, or the Vartajitta, which still revolves around the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Do you understand? The kilesa inside this Vartajitta is avidya. All the rest of the kilesas have been neutralized. All their exits have been blocked. All that is left to them is the citta, where you will have to probe. This is where the king of the kilesas resides. Banya must now concentrate all of its investigating prowess at the citta to reveal the anicca, dukkha, and anatta hidden in the citta, just like the way it investigated all the other phenomena, or sabhava dhammas. The only difference is that this one is more subtle than all the other sabhava dhammas. You must not cling to the citta. Should it be destroyed, let it happen. You must now treat the citta like a football and kick it very hard. Should the citta be crushed by your investigation, let it happen. Don't cherish it. You must kick it hard. Whatever is sammati or conjured into being by the citta is anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and will naturally disappear. The purified citta will not be tainted with anicca, dukkha, and anatta. It will be separated from everything. This citta has attained to freedom. It's right here. The Magga, Phala, and Nibbana are realized right here. You don't realize them at that place or at that time, which is mere speculation and a waste of time. You must now concentrate your investigation right here. The first noble truth, Dukkha Satya, and the second noble truth, Samudaya Satya, that shroud the citta are in the citta. The fourth noble truth, the Magga, the tool that eliminates the Dukkha and Samudaya, is also right here. It consists of Sati, Samadhi, and Banya. Nirodha, the cessation of Dukkha, is the outcome of Magga. When you've eliminated Samudaya, Dukkha will cease. The cessation of Dukkha is called Nirodha. When the time comes for total elimination, you mustn't leave behind any trace of sammati or anything conjured into being by the citta. If the citta should be destroyed because it can't withstand your scrutiny, let it be. But the citta won't be destroyed. It is avidya or sammati or anicca, dukkha, and anatta that will be eliminated. The Lord Buddha said, you have to let go of good and evil. You have to do it right here in the citta. It was here where the Lord Buddha became enlightened, terminated rebirth, eliminated the kilesas, tanha, and asava, and became noble and the world's greatest teacher. It was the same way with all the noble disciples. They became enlightened by following the Dhamma teaching, which is the only thing that the kilesas are afraid of. That's why, when you practice, the kilesas will always oppose you, resist you, and hypnotize you to make you weak. If the kilesas are doing this to my students, it will be a cause for concern. There are many of them here, and they are increasing every day. I really am worried about your practice. When there are too many students, the quality of practice will be diluted. When there are very few, it will be highly concentrated. You must not relent in your practice. If you want to eliminate the kilesas and you want freedom and nibbana, you must always look at the kilesas as your enemy. You also have to closely watch your citta. If you do this, you won't be disappointed. Your citta has always been the right location to do your practice, because the kilesas are in your citta and are all harmful. Only the Dhamma teaching can neutralize the kilesas. Nothing else can, because the kilesas are not afraid of anything else. That's why you have to strive in your practice. Be vigilant and mindful of the kilesas that will resist the Dhamma teaching and terminate your practice.